Explaining resolution, image size, DPI, and PPI is a very difficult task. There is so much confusion about the subject because the evidence of scale on the computer is very abstract. Even somewhat unreal. Often students will look at their image on the computer screen and think it's the size that they see. Oh no, that is an illusion. That scale does not even exist. So don't believe what you see. The only thing you can trust in your image are the pixel dimensions and your image size and resolution. And even then, there are misconceptions about the process of sizing and resizing documents. So let's first talk about pixel dimensions. This is a literal calculation of how many linear pixels exist in the width and height of your image. This will show the native size of your image at the time of input. So let's look at this portion of the tennis court as the document. These little table tennis balls will represent the pixels. Okay, now I've got to measure this first document because remember, you can't trust what you see here on your monitor. So let's see what size this is. Okay, it's exactly 1 inch. So I have a 1 inch document here, and let me get my pixels. Oops, lost one. It'll come back to me. I'm going to place my pixels here in the document, if they'll stay. I got to get that 1 pixel. Good thing I'm used to this. All right. There's that runaway pixel right there. Okay, now let's look at our 1 inch document and see what our pixel dimensions are. Pixel dimensions, you can literally go into the image and count how many dots per inch, or when you're making a print, or how many pixels per inch is the term you use when you're on the monitor. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That means that the pixel dimensions of this image are going to be 7 by 7. Now when we fill it in, it'll be a total of 49 pixels, but when we talk about resolution, we're talking about pixel dimensions. So in this 1 inch document, the pixel dimension or resolution will be 7. So we'll have a 1 by 1 inch document with a resolution of 7. Okay, so let's say we want to make this image bigger. Then we need to go inside the image size dialog box located in the image menu and expand the size of our document. So it's in this dialog box that we have to decide whether we're going to resample the image or not. In this case, we're not going to resample, and what will happen then is that our pixel dimensions will stay exactly the same. So where we had 7 ping pong balls going across the width and height of our image, we will now have the equivalent of a tennis ball. So in other words, because we're not resampling any pixels, which means the computer will make up pixels to fill in for the smaller size, the way that it compensates for the expansion of the document going from 1 inch to 2 inches is it basically just makes the pixels bigger. So this would be our difference in pixel size. And here's where you start to actually see pixels in your document. When people talk about having low DPI when they print and that you start to see pixels, like you can actually see the edges, almost like stair steps going down, that's because the pixel size has expanded so much because you sized up your document and expanded it. So now we're going to see what it looks like when we make an image that has tennis ball pixels instead of table tennis ball pixels. So now that we have expanded our image to 2 by 2 inches, we're going to place our larger scale pixels into our image. Now here's the thing, you know when you're not changing your pixel dimensions when you see in your image size dialog box that all 3 of these things are linked. Your image width connected to your image height, connected to your resolution. So any change that you have will keep those all connected, and the upper part where it has your pixel dimensions will remain the same. So to compensate, your pixels just have to get a whole heck of a lot bigger. So let's take a look at what that looks like. 2, 4, gotta find them, 6, 7. So this gives us an idea of what our pixel dimensions would look like in this larger image. Now, I'm going to do something really evil. Yep, you heard me. I'm going to go into the image size dialog box and I'm going to check the resample image. What that's going to do is separate the resolution from the width and the height of the image so that I can type in any resolution that the devil wants me to. So I could just go right ahead and lie, make up pixels any which way. Hey, are you listening to me? If you're not listening, we're leaving. Are you listening? I want you to focus. You're paying a lot for this class, so come on, listen to this. This is really important. In fact, this is the place where most people make the worst mistakes, because by checking that resample box and lying, I mean really lying, the computer is going to keep the pixel size the same and change or amend the pixel dimensions. So in other words, it's going to take these pixels, the original ones that I had, and make up pixels in between using a kind of nearest neighbor system to calculate it. Let me show you what that looks like. So now I have those small tiny pixels, and the computer is going to go in and say, here's a small pixel, here's another small pixel, and there's all this space in between them. And so it'll make up pixels in between. This is called interpolation. Yes, interpolation. And what that means is that the computer is trying to figure out what is the best pixel in between two pixels to place. Trust me, it's going to make a mistake at some point. If you make your image even bigger and bigger, you're going to end up with lack of sharpness. You might end up with wrong pixels. And so I'm telling you right now, and listen to me, if you're going to lie like this, only do it if you have to, because the computer is going to look at this document and make up pixels where you don't see them. That means hundreds of pixels are fabricated. So don't lie unless you have to. Often you'll find yourself sizing an image down for either email or maybe a smaller print size. And in this case, you'll still have to check that resample box, But what the computer will do is just throw pixels out one by one to make your pixel dimensions smaller. And in this case, the effects are minor. I would consider this a little white lie. One more little issue that I'd like to talk to you about is a checkbox inside the image size dialog box called Constrain Proportions. That Constrain Proportions checkbox should never be unchecked. If you uncheck that Constrain Proportions, and I see you do that, I'm going to have to punish you. I really am. I never want to see that unchecked. The only way that you could change the proportions of your image in any kind of professional way is to crop your image to the scale that you want. Unchecking the constraint proportions is when you see people who do that, they're stretching their image like silly putty, and you see all these strange stretched images. People look terrible, and it ruins your image, and it's a clear sign of unprofessionalism. So please do not uncheck that constraint proportions box. Otherwise, I'll have to punish you.
Well, here I am after losing the big tournament. Yeah, I'm having a bit of a tantrum there, but what I really want to show you is if I go under image size, and we'll take a look here that constrain proportions is not checked. Remember, that is the devil's work. And the reason it is because there are absolutely no links between width, height, and resolution. So this thing is just free flying. This is like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. So what we're going to do is, and when it is checked, you'll see that these two are linked. So that if I change this to 8 inches in width, it will change my height accordingly to keep the same proportions. So we are going to instead live dangerously and uncheck constrain proportions, and you'll see everything's unlinked here. And take a look up here at my pixel dimensions, because I want you to see how these change when I have resample checked and constrain proportions unchecked, so that I can just type in that devil work. So what I'm going to do is, let's say I want to put this on my website. I'm going to knock my resolution down to 72 dpi and watch what happens up here in my pixel dimensions when I do that. See how much smaller that is? So that threw away a ton of pixels here. And then the next thing I'm going to do, and this is the big mistake, is that I'm going to do a height of, let's say on my website I want to fit this into a square that's 8 by 8, perfectly square image. And take a look at this image. It is not a square image. So if I type in an 8 by 8 width and height, what is going to happen, let me click OK, is it completely squashed the image. Can you see that the proportions have changed? Yes, the image is now a square shape, but it squished it down like a pancake. So this was before and then after. And let me do something a little more dramatic so you can really see how that works. I'm going to go up into image size again. This time, let's make the height 40, and also keep your eye on the pixel dimensions up there when I do it, because this is going to interpolate a lot of pixels. Put in 40. See how that height changes? And I'm going to click OK. Woo! Check that out. That's the kind of silly putty that I'm talking about here. I'll make my hair look really cool though. Wow, look at that. So this is the kind of thing that you should not do. This is the kind of thing that amateurs do, unless you wanted that effect. I kind of like it. But be very careful about leaving that constrain, whoops, there we go. Leaving that constrain proportions checkbox unchecked is going to allow you to just go crazy with your width and height and resolution. So be responsible about how you do this.
Do not trust what you see on the screen. because you can only trust the numbers. Only resample if you absolutely have to, because interpolation is a lie. And if you do not constrain the proportions of your image, it will result in punishment. And I mean it.